What's going on, guys? Jason Phillips here, CEO, IM3 Nutrition, founder, Nutritional Coaching Institute. Doing something a little bit different today. Now, I just erased the whiteboard, and otherwise you would see all the craziness I just drew and that you're about to see in this video or listen to on this podcast. Teddy and I sat down, and really 2019 is all about adding value to you guys. We opened up a new office here in Scottsdale. It gives us the ability to create content and to bring you guys more information at a rate that we've never been able to do before. We're super excited about it. We know the value that so many of you get from things like this, and so we're experimenting with something new today. So many of you follow me on social media. You've seen the transformations I've created. You've seen the successful weight cut of Luke winning the UFC fight. You saw the transformation of Kerry Campbell recently, and so a lot of you asked me to break down that process. You wanted to know the details and the intricacies behind it. How does my head work during these processes? And so I try to give you as much of that as possible in what you're about to either watch or listen to. This is a direct breakdown. It's exactly as I recall it. It starts with how we attacked it from 8 months ago all the way up until present day. What are we currently doing beyond the diet? So I hope you guys enjoy this. If you like it, please respond. Let us know. Let us know you want to see more of this. We're happy to do it. And as always, we would appreciate, on YouTube, a thumbs up, and on the podcast, a 5-star rating. We'll talk to you guys soon. What's going on, guys? This is the first ever podcast case study that we're ever going to post. Some of you guys will see this on YouTube. Some of you guys will be hearing it in the All In podcast. And really just wanted to break down one of the most successful transformations that we have had recently. Obviously, I posted to Instagram. I got so many questions wanting to know the exact process I used. And so I really wanted to break down exactly what went into it, give you as many details as I possibly can without literally writing out the exact diet and macros. But I'll give you exactly what goes through my head through the whole process. Hopefully this is informative. If you like it, obviously reach out, give us a thumbs up on YouTube, give us a 5-star rating on the podcast, and just enjoy. So basically the task was this. Kerry Campbell and I have worked together for 3 years. And she came to me with her husband, Brian, 3 years ago and basically was like, listen, I've tried everything under the sun. I've tried low carb, I've tried keto, I've tried fasting. Nothing works. She was consuming about 1,000 calories. She was overtraining, over-cardioing. She'd done physique shows in the past. She'd been just crushed by all these other idiots and really was in a position where she didn't trust herself and she didn't trust food. And so, 3 years ago, it was, okay, great. Obviously, we have to rebuild your metabolism. We have to reintroduce, carbohydrates into your life. We have to control the stress. And a lot of it in the beginning was education. And obviously, over the course of our 3 years together, we've created some pretty epic results. But we got her to this point, and it was, I want to say it was like 6 or so months ago, where we finished her last cut, or it was probably closer to 8 months ago. We finished her last cut, and we said, let's do something epic. Your 40th birthday isn't that far away. Let's get absolutely shredded and create our best ever image at 40. And so while that's all well and good, and a lot of people are like, okay, great, let's just prepare 12, 14, 16 weeks out for 40, the real work went into play right after the last dietary phase. And so we did a photo shoot 8-10 months ago. It was great. It came out really good. It wasn't the best. And so we knew that we wanted this to be the absolute best, nothing held back. And the crazy part is this was going to happen through the holidays. This was going to happen through her traveling. She's a mindset coach to celebrities, so she had to travel out to the Super Bowl and crazy things like that. So there was a lot that went into this prep. But we committed to it. And so the very beginning was, hey, listen, you've done a lot of diets and you've done a lot of recoveries, but you've never really taken the time to prolong living at a higher calorie state. And so from a periodization standpoint, we have, obviously, as she diets, right, that's her season. As she gets her calories up, that's her post-season. But she had never done a prolonged off-season. And so for her, that was the real magic. So as we started this phase, we said, we're going to really extend this off season. And our goal here was to build as much metabolic capacity as we possibly could. And so we kept pushing calories. She got to the point where she's like, oh, I can't wait to diet, because obviously body fat got a little bit higher. And so inside the off season, we did that. Now, the pre-diet or the pre-season, if you will, was largely around setting the mental parameters here. And so what happens is, we've dieted several times. Like I said, we've created a lot of successful results together. But this time, the level of diligence was going to have to be just that step above. There wasn't going to be able to be what she calls distraction meals. She wasn't going to be able to text me on Thursday and be like, hey, Brian and I wanted to have a glass of wine last night. Like, that didn't exist inside of this. Because if we're really going for your peak, like no holds barred, holding nothing back, like we're all in on this. And she was all in on creating her best for being 40 years old. So inside of this preseason, it was about a 3-week phase where we took those things out and we said, listen, like, this is what you're committing to. This is what you know is happening in the next 16 weeks. There's going to be Thanksgiving. There's going to be Christmas. There's going to be traveling to your clients. Are you prepared for this? 100%. She was on board. But this time, I believe, was one of the most critical components to our success, is we set the frame, right? Inside of business, we call that the pre-frame. You're creating expectations for your consumer. This was the pre-frame to her success. I was really excited about, just her attitude heading into it. So then we jumped into season, which was the active diet. Now, like I said, we had built a really high caloric maintenance. We had really worked on metabolic capacity in the off season. And so what we decided to do this time was completely contrary to anything we've done. In the past, we've always just done a steady caloric reduction. If you've read Macros Applied, you know that I talk about how more overweight individuals, you can be more aggressive with their diets. People that have less to lose, we typically can be less aggressive. And so, even though she had less to lose, I decided, hey, I know you have a hyper-adaptive metabolism. So I'm going to be super aggressive, then I'm going to back off, then I'm going to be super aggressive, then I'm going to back off, and we're going to have different cycles of that throughout our 14 weeks. And so what we started with was about a 30% caloric deficit. That was probably the largest that we've ever started her diet at. And we did this for just over 2 weeks. I believe the first one was about 16 days. And the net result here was something like 6 pounds lost, which is great. Like, we never see her lose 6 pounds that quickly. It was like falling off. She's like, holy crap, I love this process already. And I said, okay, pump the brakes. Now we're going to bring you back up to maintenance. And we did that for about 10 days. Here's the beautiful part, because we're doing this right. This is when I knew we had really positioned her metabolism to be in a great place. At maintenance, she gained less than 1 pound, right? So as of, so that's 16 days, so 26 days, 3.5 weeks, we were already down 6 pounds, which on average is a little less than 2 pounds per week, which is perfect. But we've also just given her body and her metabolism and her hormones a break at maintenance, so we know we're ready to push hard again. This time, we went to a 33% calorie deficit, and I believe we did that for about 2 weeks, and that yielded, I want to say something like 4 pounds of weight loss. Again, right on track. Right around that 2 pounds per week mark. This time we brought her back up to maintenance. It was something like a week at maintenance, and let's see, 1 week. And I think this time we gained like 0.4 pounds, which was awesome. She couldn't believe that she could actually go back to eating so much in her dietary phase, not gain weight. And so we did small cycles like this until about the 6-week out mark, okay? And this is where I don't ever like toot my own horn or anything as a coach, but this is where when you tell me you want to achieve your peak, like, I'm all in on you. And this is why I don't take on a ton of clients anymore, because when I work closely with clients, it is me and you till the end. I don't care what's going on in my life. We're going to make it happen. And as you guys know, like with my UFC fighters, we're literally building a new diet every day, 60 days out. At the 6-week out mark, so 42 days left, I said, okay, great, I want your weight and I want pictures every single day. I want to know how any fluctuation is happening. I want to see it visually so I can start correlating exactly how your body is responding to things, because every dietary phase is a little bit different, right? And so obviously as we got later and later, the cycles got smaller and smaller, the deficits got larger and larger, and it turned into what we would probably consider a pretty traditional carb cycle. We were living anywhere 4 to 6 days in a pretty significant deficit, and then we were getting about 1 to 2 days closer to maintenance. I don't want to say that we ever went back up completely to maintenance in those, because I don't believe it was true. And so we kept doing that, right? And then around 2 weeks out, you're starting to look at, okay, great, how does that peak look? And this is where I'm really starting to monitor. How is your body responding on low carbohydrates? How is your body responding on low calories? How is your body responding to more cardio, less cardio, off days, training days? And I'm literally looking at pictures every single day to see how this is working out. How is your body responding to the smallest manipulations of every variable? Because hitting your peak is about manipulating every small variable, right? And so at 2 weeks out, I started to recognize, I'm like, wow, she is holding an insane amount of muscular fullness on very low carbohydrates. I couldn't believe it. And so I would test it, and I'd give her another day and another day and another day on low carbs, and she'd stay full and full, and the body weight would just come down and down. So I was like, great, I don't have to fill you out that much. So at 2 weeks out, we decided it was going to be a completely different peak than we had ever done. Side note, I think a lot of people think that peak weeks or the final week or doing something crazy behind a really specific event has to be super drastic. What you're about to find out, it was not super drastic at all. So it was about at 10 days, we started her water load. And so we increased, she typically consumes about 3 to 4 liters of water per day. We started consuming 6 to 7 liters of water, and we did nothing else different, right? And so we just started seeing how was that. She actually, because that hyperhydration is actually starting to dehydrate you, she did start to flatten out a little bit. So at about 7 days out, we did a 2-day load. That was closer to maintenance calories, but it was more carbohydrates. That really put her in a fantastic position. Let's see, from days 5 through 3, she was on low carbs. At 2 days out, we loaded her relative to what we had seen in this transition. So we did 1 day of a load, 1 day out. So the day before a peak, guys, this is so non-traditional, but this is where you have to know your clients. The day before a peak, she was actually low carbohydrate. We did not load her the day before her peak, and then the day of, she just ate pretty much normal, because honestly we had pictures every day from her after she had consumed coffee and breakfast, because we knew that was going to be the timing of the shoot. So I knew exactly what she was going to look like with that meal in her. So the day of was just super normal, and we did not bring water down. So like I said, we were loading water at 10 days out. The only time we started manipulating water was the day of the shoot, and all we did was a reduction. Now, with Carrie, if I gave her exact amount, she would do it, but she would probably overdo it, right? If I said, hey, I want you to do 6 ounces of water with meals and 10 ounces of water between meals, that would probably turn into like 3 or 4 ounces of water with meals and sips between meals, which would not be enough, because remember, the day before we were low carb, which is already starting to spit water out. So I did not want her to flatten out. All the data points I had previous with us working together, she flattens out very easily. We don't manipulate sodium at all. She couldn't believe that, but honestly, she hadn't manipulated sodium the whole time. She was looking fantastic, so why would we even start to mess with that? The end result, absolutely best ever. Teddy, I'll have you insert pictures now. The results were amazing. Homegirl got shredded. Absolutely best ever. She felt the best ever. One thing I want to touch on, we did not do a lot of this crap. Not a lot of cardio. The most she ever hit was 45 minutes, I believe 4 to 5 days per week. She did do 2 sprint sessions almost the entire prep. But it was no more than 45 minutes per day. We did factor in her NEAT levels. So we started tracking her steps. She started the prep at about 10,000 steps per day. She finished around 15,000 steps per day. I know, living up in Montreal, Canada, it wasn't always easy. She would go snowshoeing, but she got it done. She actually really likes the outdoors and doing that, so it was actually a really cool way of doing it. No crazy supplementation regimes. I think that covers it. I don't really think anything else was too crazy. The approach we used for the most part, so inside of calories, I talked about a calorie deficit. Protein for the macros was set about 1 gram per pound. Fats were always 20% or sometimes under, and carbs were always just the remainder of those calories. That's how we set up all my prescriptions. Obviously the fat percentage and the protein will vary, but for her, that's it. She diets very well on low fats, more carbohydrates. She did, just for those of you guys to know, she did use intermittent fasting the whole time. That's 100% a preference. That was not dictated by me. She just likes to not eat for a while and cut off her eating. Also, her husband practices that as well. So they've just seen good success with it. So we let her use it. more than anything, what I want to touch on is after her season, we jumped into an off season, right? So, or I'm sorry, into a postseason. So right now, as of this day, while we're filming this and while we're recording this, she is in that postseason phase. We are actively getting her calories back up. We are using a recovery diet, not a reverse diet. Our goal is to restore maintenance as quickly as possible and get her really comfortable. And this is because she has her sights set on a show, potentially 8 months from now. And so I really want to make sure that we get to the off season phase as fast as we can, where we start making physical improvements, because her body this time will be judged by judges, and so we need to make sure that we address any symmetrical issues or any fullness issues, and that's just a whole nother rabbit hole that several of you guys will never have to worry about. But it's worth noting that we absolutely move directly to postseason. We want to make sure she remains healthy, and our goal is to continue doing this for as long as she wants to, and keep her healthy throughout the whole process. So guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, I genuinely hope that this helps. If you are listening to us on the podcast, I hope you enjoyed the explanation. We have never done anything like this before. Like I said, reach out to us here on YouTube, leave us a comment below on the podcast, shoot us an email, shoot me or Teddy a message on social media. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to know if you want to hear more of this. As always, we appreciate you. Leave us an awesome rating. We'll talk soon.